said, my name's Christian Williams. I go to Penn Hills High School, and you are Mr. Lewis, or from
Yep.
Seton Hill University.
That's correct. Mr. Luke Lewis from Seton Hill University.
All right. So, what is the student-professor ratio at your school?
Sure, yeah, we are a 14-to-1 student-to-professor ratio. That typically means our class sizes are anywhere from 15 to 25 students, so usually a pretty small classroom environment. Our students typically get to know our professors pretty well. They get to work in their groups pretty well. The way the smaller classroom is set up, it's made for an environment that's more interactive, conversational. So, yep, that's pretty much how things are done environmentally in our classroom, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. What is your diversity initiative?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question. That's a big one for us. So being in Western PA here, Greensburg, Pennsylvania is where we're located, so not too far from Penn Hills, but being in Western PA, obviously the area itself isn't super diverse, which is a challenge in itself for us. So we've been doing a lot to try to get a little bit further than that. I will say just numbers-wise, we are currently at 19% diversity, which statistically isn't a great number, just
Right.
being very upfront and honest with you. With that said, we've grown from 17, 18% a few years ago, so it shows that number is on the rise, that there are things actually being put in place. The two big things are people. So we have Adriel Hilton and Keisha Jimerson. They are our director of, our dean of students for diversity, and then our assistant director of dean of students, who is a diversity officer as well. So both Keisha and Adriel have done a lot on campus to just grow awareness, grow the environment, make people understand what's okay, what's not okay. They have actually worked on a task force, and there's actually a listing. So they've worked on enrollment and retention of students of color, faculty and staff hiring. So they're making sure that our education and mentoring is right in coinciding with that. The curriculum development, organizational structure, they've done a lot of different works just to focus on that. So they actually did implement a task structure, so that way there is a task force actually working on that end of things. So to answer your question in short, it's growing. We are trying and working on different ways to build that population and make sure we're being a better university as a whole in that sense.
Okay, that's good. It's good that you're on and saying, yeah, and that's good to see. At least you're seeing some improvement.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So, how much does your university cost?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's an important one. Obviously, you have to kind of have an idea of what the school is going to cost whenever you go there. So I will say this: we are a private university. Typically, when you see a private university, you're going to see a little bit of a higher tuition, but we may end up, I don't want to steal your thunder, I don't know if you have any questions about scholarships, but we likely will talk about scholarships here later on. So whenever I say our tuition, students don't ever actually pay anything near there. So with tuition, room, and board all included, this year we're right around $52,000. And again, no one pays anything near there. But it is cool that does cover your tuition. It covers your housing and your meal plan. It covers parking. Freshmen are allowed to have cars here on campus.
Oh.
And then it also covers your technology fee. So every student here at Seton Hill receives a MacBook Air. And they're also supplied with our Apple certified technicians and our solution center. So there is a lot of different support going into that number. But again, the cool thing is, even though we're looking at that 52,000, no one pays anything near there because of our merit scholarships, which we can likely chat about here sometime soon.
Okay. All right. Sounds reasonable. What SAT or ACT score are needed?
Sure, that's a good question, and that's a big one for this year, given that both the SAT and ACT have been exams that have been hard to come by. You may or may not have heard there is a global pandemic going on.
Right.
A lot of students have really wanted to get those tests done, but just haven't had a chance to. Or, in another scenario, some students have really wanted to get that test done, got a chance to do it, but it was only their first crack at it, so it wasn't really their best representation of how they can actually do. It doesn't show their abilities that well. So, when I answer this question, first of all, I'll say that we don't necessarily have a minimum. So on a normal year, we do want to see your transcripts and test scores with your application. But as far as this is what you need to get into Seton Hill, we look at more than just an enroll on a page. So I'll tell you that from the start. But being honest with you, this year things have changed a little bit. So we have added a little bit more of a generative test optional policy that have allowed students to either not take the SAT or ACT because of obvious reasons. There's no test available for them to take. Or if they did get a chance to take it and it just doesn't show their true abilities, they can scrap it. They don't have to use it with us. So we'll just ask for a letter of recommendation and an essay to replace that test score, and you're done. So we're being pretty reasonable and I guess flexible with students who are in different situations.
All right. Scholarship opportunities. Let's go ahead and jump into that.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that, we kind of talked about our tuition, so
Right.
I think everyone who may be listening is thinking, 52,000, maybe I better turn this video off now. So that's kind of the thing about Seton Hill, is that we do offer merit scholarships, among many other scholarships, institutional-wise. But right up front, as soon as you're accepted to Seton Hill, you're going to receive one of our merit scholarships. They range from $17,000 to $21,000. So at a bare minimum, when you come in, you're at least knocking $17,000 off of that 52. So remember a few minutes ago when I told you that 52, no one pays anything near it. It's because of those merit scholarships. Those numbers are going to be based off of how you do, in the classroom. So what your GPA is, as well as if you did provide test scores to us, we'll use those. If you decide to apply test optionally, we mainly look at your GPA and take into account, the other items that you're submitting. But regardless, you're going to receive at least that $17,000 if you're coming in as an undergraduate traditional freshman. So that does take a pretty big chunk off of it right off the bat. I will say that's not our only scholarship. So we have community service scholarships. We have Seton Hill grants. We actually just implemented a new scholarship program called our Elizabeth Seton Scholarship Program for any student who is Pell eligible. So Pell is a state grant, just to be brief with that. And if you're eligible for that grant, you can potentially receive one of our Elizabeth Seton Scholars. And that gives a chance for students to receive up to $4,000 in another grant. So we are providing a lot of institutional aid to help students kind of afford the cost of Seton Hill and bring that cost down even further. Now, beyond that, because we're a small school, you're going to work with a specific admissions counselor. So everyone from Penn Hills will actually work with me. I work with everyone from the greater Pittsburgh area. So when we get to that point, after we're accepted, we're looking at financial aid. We're looking to try to figure out, can I afford Seton Hill? I'm going to be right next to you guys. I'm going to be trying to help you figure out, what scholarship routes do we have available, what things are fitting for you here at Seton Hill, and then what other outside scholarships can we look into to try to cut that cost down and make you decide on a school based on the school, not if you can or can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Right. Man, I totally get it. What are the most popular majors on your campus?
Sure. Yeah, and that's a difficult question because we are a liberal arts university. That means we have a lot of different programs. You're looking at over 80 plus different very popular programs here at Seton Hill. With that said, I would say there's a few specific areas. One of the big ones is anywhere in the medical field. So in our natural and health sciences, we have our physician assistant program. It's an accelerated 5-year rigorous program that gets students a bachelor's degree and a master's degree all within 5 years, and they go out and can work in the field in a hospital directly after that. We have a nursing program. We have a partnership with LECOM, which is Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. We have a medical school with that program right here on campus. So those are pretty popular for us. Above all, though, we do have 4 other major schools at Seton Hill. So our School of Business, a lot of different tracks in that. Our School of Visual and Performing Arts, we see a lot of students love to go into music and theater and dance and a lot of different areas like that. We do have 2 really nice facilities for those students. We see students go into the School of Humanities or education. Maybe they want to be a teacher. So we have education and applied social sciences. So there's a lot of different options. To pinpoint like 2 or 3 of them would be a little bit challenging just because it changes on year to year based on the students that are coming in. But typically the medical field is a popular one, especially right now.
Okay.
There's a need for jobs, but yeah.
So I still kind of on that subject. So would you say that science is where you guys are strong at?
I would say it's definitely one of our stronger points.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually, in the specific physician assistant program, every single student ultimately passes their board exams, so they're certified PAs, and they have a 100% placement rate. That means that 100% of those students who are graduating from our program are going into jobs. So, yeah, man, I would have to agree that I think that field is probably a strong one, especially right now. It's just, that's where jobs are. But that's not to discredit any of those other, schools that we have and the programs that are in those schools, because we see a lot of students come into those programs and do phenomenally and end up with wonderful jobs.
Okay. Sounds good. How do you assist in freshmen acclimating to the college life?
Sure, yeah, and that's tough. I mean, you're going from being, the top dog as a senior in your high school to coming in and being a freshman at a big university, right? And while we're not a huge university, it is a big, change to go into. So, for us, I would say there's probably two different routes to it. So academically, obviously you have to address from being a high school student to being a college student. So for one, you're going to have an academic advisor, same person you'll work with all 4 years. So every different major here at Seton Hill has an academic advisor who works with all of the students in that program, where you actually meet with them before you even start at Seton Hill. You meet with them at orientation, and they help you pick your schedule. So you have to meet with them before you schedule every semester. They're going to be checking in on you. So you do get a lot of involvement with them, and they help a ton. But our professors, remember I mentioned we're a pretty small school. Your professors are going to know your name after day one. They're going to know if you're struggling, so they're going to help you become acclimated in the sense of getting adjusted to the academic life of being a college student. Now, socially, though, obviously you're going into a whole new environment. Even if you know a few people coming to Seton Hill, if you end up attending, you're not going to know every single person in the freshman class or the people that are already here. So it is different getting to know a new environment. So we do host, it's called Welcome Weekend and then Welcome Week. So the first weekend and week while students are on campus, there are probably about 5 events every day that students can go to and just get to know each other, have some fun, break loose, feel free on the campus without having to worry about actually doing classes yet. It gets students really, really nicely acclimated and makes people make friends pretty quickly. But as far as things going on, there's events going on at Seton Hill pretty much every single week with different trips. They host different events. This year's been a little bit different with everything going on. So we are in person right now for our students. They are physically in our classrooms, but rather than hosting a big event in the gym, they might do like when the weather's nice, maybe a movie out on the lawn where they have a big inflatable screen and they play a movie and they do, everyone just lays out in a blanket, socially distanced. So there are ways to still host events where students can kind of feel welcome and have some fun too. But hopefully that answers your question to a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It seems like y'all really trying to make sure freshmen are comfortable with a new environment that they're exposed to in college. That's good to hear.
It is huge, yes, definitely.
Yeah. What is the percentage of students that land a job right out of college?
That's a great question. And we kind of touched on that about our physician assistant program. I mentioned that there's a 100% placement rate with them. That means that every single student who graduates is getting a job. Now, across our whole campus, we're looking at a 98% placement rate. That means that 98% of our students who are graduating. Now, this number is a little bit more general because it actually applies to those who are going into a graduate program. We don't want to discredit those students because they are trying to further their education. So that 98% really covers within 6 months of graduating, 98% of our students are either into a job or graduate school, which is pretty impressive. I think the national average is somewhere in the mid to low 80%, so it's doing pretty well for us. And I think a lot of that has to do with probably 2 things. Our Career and Professional Development Center, they do a lot with our students with mock interviews, helping them find internships, helping them find jobs. I'm actually a former Seton Hill student. I graduated in 2018, and to this day I still get emails from them saying, hey, there's this job opportunity here, this one here. Every single day I get one. So they're really, really crucial in our students actually getting some employment and furthering their education. But another thing is, like step 2, right? The relationship you have with your professors, these are people who were previously in the field or are currently in the field. They know people. Networking is huge whenever you're trying to find a job. A lot of things that you're going to hear about is by word of mouth, not necessarily an email you get or something you see on LinkedIn or Indeed, one of the job searching websites. It's who your professor knows and who they can connect you with. So I think that 98% has a lot to do with our professors helping our students find some of their connections and find good fitting roles for them.
Right. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Don't really have any more questions, but sounds like you have a very good school there overall, and like you said, the diversity, you're working on the whole diversity thing going on, and it's good that you're trying to make it better and increase the percentage on that. But overall, it's like a nice school.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. All right.